From the moment this movie began test screening, people were constantly talking about how this was the next big thing. This movie got the best test rating for a comic book movie since The Dark Knight, and expectations were high. That is, until trailers started to drop and we saw more and more odd looking shots. With Ezra Miller having such a rocky past year, along with the bad shots, mixed in with marketing trying to make the movie seem like something it wasn't, things were swirling together to form a product that would overpromise and underperform. The movie is finally out now, and I can say with confidence that that is exactly what happened. The movie itself is fine, but because it isn't as good as The Dark Knight, people will act like it's horrible. The Flash is not a masterpiece by any means, and the flaws are really obvious really early on, but there are some good things to glean from the movie.
What we do here is go back.
We open with Barry working with Bruce to stop a heist. I really hate how he talks because if there's one thing Ezra Miller is good at, it's acting. Well, that and getting away with crimes, but that's a discussion for another day. I've seen him do way better, so this weird Sheldon Cooper spin on Barry Allen is just so annoying. The fact that a lot of the movie is just him talking to himself makes this even worse, because now the uncomfortability is staring you right in the face. Speaking of uncomfortability, a building explodes and we get a way too long sequence of Barry saving a bunch of babies in slow-mo. The sequence itself is only about 2 to 3 minutes long and is just super boring, so it feels way longer. He spends so much of his time working his way up to saving the kids that the suspense is completely gone, and you're just left sitting there wondering when snack time is over. Quicksilver has a similar scene that is a similar length, and is just so much better. Part of the reason for that is the fact that the threat level is actively increasing, with more and more of the mansion slowly exploding. We also have an increasing threat level here, but not only is Barry not taking it seriously, the threat is consistently being undermined by dumb stuff, like Barry ignoring the baby in front of him to get to his snack, or putting a baby in the microwave. Quicksilver scenes had some comedy, but it wasn't the main focus. Sometimes scenes that are made just to be cool can be fun. We cut to Batfleck in a remarkably dumb costume. What is this? This looks absolutely horrible. The last one wasn't great, but it was way better than whatever this is. I was really glad that he wasn't in the suit very long, because this is hilariously distracting. Later on, Barry talks with Bruce about going back in time, and when Bruce gets told that he can have his parents back, he says,
"These scars we have make us who we are. We're not meant to go back and fix them."
I guess he's trying to convince Barry that time travel is a bad idea, but to act like Bruce wouldn't at least consider the possibility is wild. Barry completely disregards this conversation and ends up saving his mom anyway, which leads us to our cameo characters. I call them cameo characters because even though they have a lot more screen time than a normal cameo, they serve the same purpose. Both are included simply for fan service and aren't really necessary. Take the second Barry for example. I'll call the original Ezra and the copy Barry just for clarity's sake. Barry doesn't quite fit the definition, but he's annoying enough that I'll slide him into the category. Again, Ezra is just insufferable at certain points. The two of them working together is like taking the most annoying kid you knew in high school, cloning him, then being forced to hang out with him for an hour. You spend the entire time just wanting to go home. The two have some fun moments and some interesting moments, but all in all, the bad far outweighs the good, at least for now. The two head over to Wayne Manor to meet up with Bruce Wayne, but find a different one there. Michael Keaton's Batman isn't quite as bad as I expected. I like the small detail of him having long hair so they could hide the stunt double, which is really creative. Sometimes movies will just make the screen darker to hide a double, and that simply doesn't look good. It's odd how Keaton was completely retired and had no interest in superhero business, but as soon as Ezra talks a little bit about his work, Keaton is instantly ready to jump back into things. I like the fact that the moping period is over quick, but it just doesn't really feel earned. I wish we could get a break from the trope of a former hero refusing to help people. I'm sure that it can be done well, but I've never seen it. Either they drag their feet for almost the whole movie, or they flip at the drop of a hat. Keaton is definitely doing the best with what he has in terms of acting, but what he has isn't very much. Once he's ready, the three head over to Siberia to save Kara-El. Kara-El is barely a character at all, honestly. so there isn't a ton to talk about with her. All we get is the fact that she's Kal-El's cousin and she doesn't like General Zod. She could have been so much more and she just gets nothing. At least Keaton gets to be a trope. Kara gets to be strong and that's about it. She randomly flies Ezra into a storm and has him get struck by lightning just because. She comes in after Ezra gets hit by lightning the first time, so why would she think to hit him with lightning again? The out-of-universe answer is obvious, that being that she's the only one that can fly up there, but in-universe she does it on a whim, which sums up a lot of what she does in the movie. Ezra getting his powers makes the team a lot more powerful overall, so they head over to take on Zod. General Zod is the best cameo, simply because Michael Shannon always plays him to perfection. Zod feels twice as intimidating here compared to Man of Steel, and he steals the show whenever he's on screen. Speaking of Zod stealing the show,
it was me, Barry. I made them draw Lola Bunny with...
The third act of this film was way better than the first two. I was worried at first when I saw that it was set in the most bland place possible, but once the action starts, things get so lively that the bland color palette of the battlefield is barely noticeable. I found it interesting how one of the Kryptonians was able to cut Barry because he wasn't used to fighting someone anywhere near close to his speed. It's a cool way of showing just how out of his depth he is. I loved how Ezra taught Barry things as they went through the fight, and Barry gets better and better at attacking the Kryptonians. The two of them stop being unbearable once they meet with Keaton, but this is where their relationship really shines. Kara takes on Zod, and I think this fight played out just as well as it could have. Zod is so prideful that he doesn't take her seriously until he's about to lose, then he shows that he was truly bred for combat. Kara is strong, maybe even as strong as Clark, but she doesn't measure up to Zod. To be fair to her, I don't think she knows how to throw a punch, so maybe throwing her at someone bred for combat wasn't the best idea. I appreciate the fact that they had Keaton in the bat plane and not on foot for most of the fight. Father Time catches us all, and you can only do the Taken 3 fence shot so many times. Him staying in the ship allows us to focus on what he's saying, and not on some jump cut nonsense. His self-sacrifice is ridiculous given how it literally does nothing. The ship he hit had its shields up, so he might have jostled a cup of coffee on the ship at most. Barry and Ezra go back in time to save Kara and Keaton, only to fail again. The moment Zod decides to stop Kara on the second attempt was so cool, I didn't even mind Keaton knocking out a Kryptonian with a sticky grenade. Barry and Ezra go back into the Chrono Bowl, with Barry wanting to go back to save them again, and Ezra realizing they can't. I love the irony of Ezra's younger version of himself showing him just how wrong he was. The twist of the guy who hit Ezra earlier on being future Barry was really obvious, but I only got it when he showed up the second time, which was right before the reveal, so it was fine. I think Savitar's reveal ruined nameless villain speedsters for me. Ezra leaves to say his final goodbyes to his mom in a really touching scene, then he heads back to the present.
What we do here is go back.
This was an odd movie. There's a lot of bad here, but the good aspects are also really cool. I know people will want me to bring up the CGI, and yes, it is an abomination and an assault on my eyes, but also, using Christopher Reeves in that way is crazy to me. If you're gonna use the face of a dead man, at least make it look good. This movie could have been wonderful, and you will see that fact shine through multiple times throughout watching it. As it stands right now, we have a movie that doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it meant to be lighthearted and fun, acting as something you could throw on in the background easily, or is it a deep and moving drama meant for people dealing with grief and letting people go? If the movie had the same quality as the third act, people would love it. But with what we have now, you wonder if people won't walk out of the theater before that point.